History is not just a tale of battles and empires, it is also a record of humanity's darker impulses, especially in the ways societies sought to punish and control women. Across centuries, the brutal imagination of justice systems turned women's bodies into battlegrounds for societal norms and power. From the flames of the stake to twisted devices designed for pain and humiliation, these punishments were not just acts of cruelty but statements of control, silencing voices that dared to defy. In this video, we will uncover some of the most horrifying punishments women endured throughout history. Stay with us as we explore these harrowing practices, each more disturbing than the last, and discover the chilling lessons they hold about fear, power, and oppression. Burned at the stake. Burning at the stake was one of history's most infamous and excruciating punishments, primarily used during the Middle Ages to target women accused of witchcraft, heresy, or moral failings. This punishment became a grim tool of fear, designed not only to inflict unbearable suffering but also to publicly demonstrate the consequences of defying societal norms or religious authority. Women were disproportionately subjected to this fate, often scapegoated during periods of crisis, such as plagues or famine, when fear and suspicion ran high. The condemned were tied to a wooden stake, surrounded by flammable materials, and left to die in agonizing flames before large, jeering crowds. One of the most well-known victims of this horrific practice was Joan of Arc, a young French military leader accused of heresy and condemned in 1431. Her final moments were recorded by Jean Massue, who noted her words, "Hold the cross high so I may see it through the flames." Burning at the stake was justified by authorities as a way to purify the soul or protect society from perceived evils, but in reality, it was a method of reinforcing power structures and silencing those who threatened them. It reflects the intersection of fear, control, and misogyny, leaving behind a legacy of suffering and injustice that starkly illustrates the cost of societal paranoia and intolerance. Forced to wear scold's bridles. The scold's bridle, or brank, was a cruel device used in early modern England and Scotland to silence women accused of being quarrelsome, gossiping, or defiant. This iron contraption encased the head, with a sharp metal plate forced into the mouth to suppress speech, often causing pain and injury. Women subjected to this punishment were not just silenced, they were publicly humiliated. Many bridles were adorned with devil horns or animal features to further ridicule the wearer, making them objects of public mockery as they were paraded through towns. Historian William Harrison described the device in his description of England as a tool to correct unruly tongues, reflecting a broader societal effort to enforce silence and submission. The bridle's design aimed to break the spirit as much as the body, punishment used in medieval England and colonial America, targeting women accused of being scolds, witches, or immoral. This punishment involved strapping the woman into a wooden chair attached to a long beam, which was then used to repeatedly dunk her into a body of water. Far from a mere correctional method, it served as a public spectacle of humiliation and control. Women were often dunked in cold, filthy water, risking hypothermia, injury, or even death as the ordeal pushed their physical limits. Symbolically, the punishment mirrored ancient trial by water rituals, where floating signified guilt and sinking innocence, a grim paradox that often led to fatal outcomes. Crowds would gather to jeer and mock, adding a layer of public shame to the already torturous process. The ducking stool was not just a physical punishment, ripper torture. The breast ripper, also known as the iron spider, was one of the most gruesome and targeted punishments inflicted on women during the medieval and early modern periods. This brutal device was specifically designed to mutilate women, primarily those accused of adultery, blasphemy, or witchcraft. The tool consisted of sharp metal claws that were either heated or used cold to tear the victim's breasts. The process was not only agonizing but served as a horrifying public spectacle aimed at shaming women and deterring others from defying societal. The Spanish donkey, or wooden horse, was a terrifying medieval torture device that symbolized the brutal extremes of punishment inflicted on women accused of defying societal norms. The device featured a sharp, triangular wooden beam upon which the victim was forced to sit or straddle. Heavy weights were attached to the ankles, increasing the downward pressure on the body and driving the sharp edge into the flesh. This resulted in unbearable pain, deep injuries, and often permanent damage. This method was used during the Spanish Inquisition and other authoritarian regimes, particularly against women accused of witchcraft, adultery, or other offenses. The pair of anguish, or paraspinia, was a cruel and invasive torture device that stands as one of history's most horrifying inventions. Shaped like a metal pear, the device was inserted into the victim's body, depending on the accusation, into the mouth or, in censored terms, other sensitive areas. Once in place, the torturer would turn a screw, causing the device to expand, tearing the surrounding tissue and inflicting excruciating pain. The internal damage was often severe, with many victims suffering lifelong injuries or even succumbing to their wounds. The act of using such a tool was as much about humiliation as it was about punishment, targeting women's physical and psychological well-being in profoundly invasive ways. While the historical record on its widespread application is sparse, its design reflects the ingenuity of cruelty used to silence and control women under the guise of justice. Tormented on the iron chair. The iron chair, also known as the chair of torture, was a horrifying device used to inflict unimaginable suffering on its victims, particularly women accused of crimes like witchcraft, adultery, or treason. The chair was embedded with hundreds of sharp spikes on the seat, backrest, and armrests. Victims were forced to sit on it, their bodies pressed against the spikes, while straps were tightened to immobilize them. In some cases, the chair was heated, causing additional agony as the metal burned the skin. This punishment was as much psychological as it was physical. Victims were sometimes left on the chair for hours. For many, the chair was not just a form of punishment but a precursor to execution, used to weaken the body and break the spirit before death. Records from the Inquisition reveal the iron chair's use in extracting confessions. Punishments endured by women throughout history serve as haunting reminders of the consequences of fear, prejudice, and unchecked authority. These acts of cruelty were more than punishments. They were tools of oppression, designed to silence, control, and strip women of their dignity. As we reflect on these dark chapters, we are reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of striving for justice rooted in equality and humanity.